KTM has created the best history on the MX2 championship success, based on a great strategy of building the right team inside the adaptations of the last 21 years' rules. KTM won 16 titles on 21 seasons in the MX2 championship since 2000 and is by far the most successful story in this category. But the first championship were even before that, with the American rider Trampus Parker in 1989 claiming the first title for the Austrian manufacturer. In 2000, KTM presented a very competitive 125cc, making the SX model the most competitive bike in the 125 championship, and with Grant Langston leading the KTM champ team with Kenneth Gunderson as teammate. The South African took advantage of the fact that Alessio Chiodi, the three-time champion in 125, moved to the USA and claimed his first title on the class in front of James Dobb, another KTM factory rider, made a great season. With this win, KTM entered on an impressive, powerful position in the market and being the team to beat in 2001. With Grant Langston moving to the USA to lead a strong investment of KTM on that market, it was time for James Dobb to become the main title contender. And Dobb did a great work, being the strongest rider in the 2001 125 World Championship, beating the Kawasaki rider Steve Ramon and the other KTM rider Eric Eggins. Now it was time for Dom to move to the Premier class, and in 2002 was Steve Ramon that went from Kawasaki to KTM. But the Kawasaki team gave a great answer, with Michael Masciu winning the World Championship after an amazing battle with Ramon for the first place, and with Patrick Epps being third in that year. 2003 started one of the strongest partnerships ever seen on motorsports, with Red Bull becoming the main sponsor of all off-road KTM activities and creating the strongest budget on the motocross paddock. This move made KTM teams becoming a desire for most of the young riders dreaming about to become world champions. This was the time for Steve Ramon to revenge from 2002 season, becoming the world champion on the now nominated MX2 class, in front of Stefan Evers, that was also the first MXGP class champion and was really close to become also MX2 champion in the same year after missing the first GPs on MX2 class and lately decided to make two categories in the same day. Mark de Rover was Ramon's teammate. Four strokes were taking the market and Mark de Rover was the favorite for 2004 title after Ramon moved up to MXGP. The Dutchman got injured on the fourth race of the season, leaving the battle for the championship with four other riders. The KTM young riders Ben Tonley and Tila Rattray, with Stefan Sword on a Kawasaki and the new rising star Antonio Cairoli with a Ducati Yamaha. An impressive year for Townley with 8 victories, giving him 116-point margin over Tyler Rattray, with Cairoli on the third place and Stefan Sword in fourth after an injury that took him out of the races. And here we started to confirm the new strategy of KTM, creating champions on MX2 class and then moving them up to MXGP on the following year, as well as developing the next year bet for champion. The Ramon and the Rover situation, as well as Townley and Rattray combination, were the example of it. 2005 was a black year for KTM. Mark de Rover and Tyler Rattray were the favorites on the MX2 class, but first was de Rover to injury himself before the season started. Tyler Rattray started the year with a win, but some problems in the following GPs and an injury that took him out of 11 races made David Philipparts to be the best KTM rider, finishing fourth. Antonio Cairoli was the champion that year with an impressive middle season performance, making him the Valentino Rossi of motocross. With 4 championships in 6 years, KTM was ready to retake the top spot with a powerful 4-rider team: Tyler Rattray, Mark de Rover, David Philipparts and Carl Nunn were the factory riders, and with Rui Gonçalves on a privateer team with factory support. With Cairoli as favorite, all eyes were on the Italian and Rattray. But it was another super rider that created a surprise. Christophe Pourcel made an outstanding season, beating Cairoli by 18 points, with David Philipparts in third, again as the best KTM rider. Rattray was fourth with 4 DNFs, taking him out of the battle for the championship, followed by the rover Carl Nunn and Rui Gonçalves, completing 5 KTMs on the top 7 spots. 2007 was again Tyler Rattray, the man on a mission, and Tommy Searle as teammate, with the young British getting ready to become the future #1 rider on the team for the following years. The legend Stefan Everts was now the coach of the team, with KTM making a big effort to recover the top spot. Antonio Cairoli made one of his best seasons ever, with 10 wins, making him recover the MX2 champion title, and Tommy Searle surprising everyone with a runner-up position. Tyler Rattray was only fourth after another injury on the second half of the season. In 2007 was also easy to understand that KTM was supporting young riders to gain experience, with names like Van Orbeek or Joël Roelands, as well as supporting private teams to have riders ready to assume a position on the factory team. It was also combined with support team on a European Championship to create the next stars of the team. The strategy was also to contract young talents in the European Championship with long-term contracts that gave them the opportunity to prove their value through 4 or 5 seasons. A big list of names went through that process, but only some were able to sit on the KTM factory ride. For 2008, KTM used the same duo and was finally the era of Tyler Rattray. The South African had a great battle with his teammate, beating Searle by 23 points on a KTM domination year. There were another 2 names on the line, with John Simpson and Rui Gonçalves finishing 4th and 5th, with a factory support showing that they were getting ready to become the main riders. A particular point was that KTM riders became really good on starts. The preparation of the bikes had a big focus on helping riders to have great starts. That was a characteristic of the team and helped winning many races. With Searle and Rattray moving to the US, KTM decided to keep the 2 names that were already connected to the team, to become the official lineup to 2009. And that showed how KTM was working with 1 or 2 title contenders and having riders preparing to assume the main spot on the following years. That was one of the biggest differences between the KTM team strategy, working on riders' development to become the future principal riders. John Simpson and Rui Gonçalves were the ones on the main spot, having Roelands, Van Orbeek and the European champion Valentin Tellier as supported riders. But it was a lot of controversy. John Simpson got injured before the 5th race of the season, and Rui Gonçalves was recovering from a pre-season injury. Struggling to get back on 100%, Rui Gonçalves had average results on the first race, losing 100 points for the first place in 3 GPs. But on the 4th round at Valkenswaard, Rui Gonçalves conquered his first ever win, repeating it 1 week later on his own GP. But KTM decided to bring the Honda rider Marvin Musquin into the team. That generated a lot of controversy that year. Musquin was a champion in front of the teammate Rui Gonçalves. In 2010, the MX2 rules changed and the age limit created some moves on the teams. Rui Gonçalves moved up into the MX2 class and Marvin Musquin was the main rider of the team. Since then, it was clear that KTM was going to have a first choice, that in this case was Marvin Musquin, and a young rider getting prepared like Jeffrey Earlings in 2010. John Simpson was still in the team after the injury in 2009. Musquin had a great year, revalidating his title, but with a strong pressure from the new motocross star, the Suzuki rider Ken Roczen. Jeffrey Earlings was one of the big surprises, with the rookie finishing 6th with some podiums on his belt. For 2011, Marvin Musquin went to the US, and there was a simple question: is anyone capable of beating Ken Roczen? Well, KTM didn't took any risks and decided to contract the German rider, making him the first choice and Erlings the one that was going to be the main rider in the following seasons. The truth is that was an epic year with amazing battles between the teammates, with Roczen claiming his first title 19 points in front of Jeffrey Erlings. 2012 was time for Erlings to assume the main spot, with Roczen promoted to MXGP before moving to the US, like many other KTM riders during the last years. Van Orbeek was the new face in the team after a long time on supported teams, and Jordi Tixier as the young talent on preparation. Erlings beat the ex-KTM rider Tommy Searle with an impressive season with 9 GP wins, and Van Orbeek finishing third in front of Jake Nichols and Jordi Tixier, also on a KTM. Jeffrey Erlings jumped in 2013 with only one goal: win every race. And the Dutchman was absolutely dominant with 15 GP wins in 17 races. In fact, he only lost 2 races because was injured, beating his teammate Jordi Tixier with José Breton in third with a private KTM. No doubts about the strategy behind, with Erlings being the top rider and Tixier as the backup, getting ready to assume the position of Erlings once he decides to step into MXGP. For 2014, everybody was expecting the same: Erlings trying to win every race, but things started differently. After winning the first 2 races, was out of the Brazilian GP by injury. Then got back into the winning mode for 10 consecutive wins. Got injured again with 4 rounds to go and decided to go for the last race, still recovering from a hard injury. Erlings finished 14 and 10th, and Jordi Tixier won by only 4 points, giving the first world title to the Frenchman and proving that KTM had the best team in the class, that when the leader rider fails, there was a backup that was able to deliver the result. Jeffrey Erlings proved again that was the fastest rider, and everybody was expecting him to move to MXGP. But he decided to stay with the ambition of a perfect season in MX2. Jordi Tixier wanted to be the top rider and have to move to Monster Energy Kawasaki to defend the number 1, with KTM hiring Holst Jonas as a young talent. The Latvian rider was the 1-5 European champion 2 years before and finished 24th in the MX2 rookie season, but showed speed that got the attention of the official team. Jonas was a great starter, and the first results showed that he was getting ready to become main rider. For Erlings, a DNF in the first heat of Argentinian GP made him lose the possibility of another perfect season, but still keeping his dominant performance. On the second half of the season, Erlings got injured again, losing the title for 2 consecutive years. Tim Geiser took his chance, beating Jonas by 25 points. The Honda factory rider was the new world champion, finishing the 7 years of consecutive titles for KTM. And Geiser was a rider that was on a KTM for a lot of years and then decided to move to Honda when everybody was expecting him to be the next KTM factory rider. Will Jeffrey Erlings go to MXGP now? Well, no. He decided to stay 1 more year after 2 seasons of bad luck. Erlings won the first 12 GPs with big margin over his competitors and was close from his goal. But again, an injury took him out of 3 races, returning to finish the season with 3 more wins and more than 100 points difference to Jeremy Stewart. Holst Jonas proved to be the right backup, but was injured with 6 rounds to go, closing with the top 5 on standings. David Poches was also on the team, but the poor results showed that he was not ready. 2016 had some special moments, and the young Spanish talent Jorge Prado made his debut in the MX2. After a successful career in the European Championships, the new Red Bull KTM talent surprised everyone, battling with Erlings for the first place in Assen. Was by far one of the most epic moments of the season, with Erlings struggling to overtake Prado. 2017 came and finally Erlings moved to the MXGP, and Red Bull KTM was now led by Paul Jonas and Prado assuming the position of the future talent. Jonas did his job with another title for KTM, and Prado showing his starting skills and leading some laps. That was the Spanish talented rider getting ready to assume the main spot in the future. He finished 7th, but it was clear that he was a title contender for the next season. KTM dominated the 2018 season, and Jonas won every heat of the first 3 races. Jorge Prado was gaining some speed and confidence, making a solid season, putting his KTM on almost every race podium, and taking the world title at the age of 17, becoming the youngest MX2 champion. Prado surpassed Jonas, that was the #1 rider, and earned the position of the main rider for the next season. Jonas moved up into MXGP, and KTM went to search for some talent on the European Championship. Tom Vial was the new factory rider, assuming the position of the young talent as Prado was the main rider. Prado was on a different level, claiming 16 wins in 18 rounds, with the biggest difference ever between the 2 first places. 213 points was the distance to Thomas Olsen, the runner-up in that year. Tom Vial was an uncertain move by the team, but showed like a copy of Prado, making great starts and leading some laps, completing his first MX2 year with an impressive 4th place. With Prado having to move to MXGP, Vial was ready to assume the main position. And KTM again kept the same strategy. Vial was there to win. René Hofer was coming from the MX250 European Championship directly into the factory team. 2020 was a solid season to Vial, with a consistent performance giving him the world champion title after a long battle with Jago Geerts. Vial won only 5 races, but was enough to capitalize on Geerts' mistakes and proving that KTM was again making the right decisions. Hofer was injured most of the season, but was able to show his starting skills and pace to ride with the leaders for some laps. In fact, it's a common factor of the young talents of the team on the last years and confirming what have been the strategy of the team. The main rider is there to win races, and the young talent is always good on starts and able to ride in front for some laps. As the season goes by, it becomes more used to ride in front and getting ready to assume the main position in the team. It's a habit to see the top MX2 rider move into the KTM team in MXGP, and the factory team searching for young talent on secondary teams or European Championship. Red Bull KTM factory team is making a big work on preparing its squad not only on a 1 or 2 year strategy, but on a long-term vision, and for 2021 is probably going to be a repetition of the team, where Vial is there to win and Hofer to earn speed and confidence. But it will be probably go into 2022 with Hofer assuming the main position in the team and KTM looking for the next talent on a supported team or a European Championship rider. This is a story of a team that created the strongest successful path in the motocross world of MX2 Championship and is ready to keep the leading position on this class after winning 16 of the last 21 seasons.